G'day and welcome back for more Space Engineers Survival. There's a small change I want to make to our elevator to make it just a little bit more functional because I've realized I forgot something important, and we can demonstrate that by doing this, sending the lift down the bottom. And if I happen to be up the top or down the bottom and the lift's not there, I have to go into the control panel to fix it. So what we're going to do instead is grab one of these stands and place it in here. Eventually I will add a door here as well so that we don't have the fear of a great drop and a quick stop. So we'll grab that, go groups, elevator 1, and we will do retract so that will bring it up to where we are. And eventually I'll do the same down the bottom except with extend so that the lift goes to where I need it to be. And it looks like one of those pistons isn't working, so I'm going to do one final change, which is elevator 1. They're all just going to get... Whoa, not what I wanted to do. I accidentally pressed shift instead of control there. Definitely wanted to press that instead. I think that should fix the elevator, and it should always have enough oomph now to move where I would want it to. With that done, let's head downstairs because I want to start working on the hangar design so that we've got a bit of an idea of what the hallway at the exit from this elevator should look like. And the first thing to do is be puzzled as to why all of my connectors have disconnected. I'm going to reconnect those. I don't know what I've done that's caused that. Oh, the ugly duckling can probably stay as it is because it's managed to, fortunately, balance itself on its connector with everything switched off. And it's not going to use up its power sitting like that. Right. I genuinely don't understand how that's happened. That's not good. Okay, first things first, let's get rid of this projector. Oops, should have gotten the button panel first. Let's grab a bunch of steel plate. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay out roughly where I want the blast doors to go in. I want them to be set back a little bit from the front of the, well, from the entrance to the cave. So you do get that bit of entering a tunnel first feeling before you get to the doors. I think about here should do reasonably well. My intent with these is to make them as double doors, so a door on each side of the hangar bay. And that means I'm going to have this gap be even numbers so that we can have two doors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect, that's what I had intended it to be. Now that we've got our gap, what we need to do with our rotors and making rotor-based doors... Why won't you place? There we go. What we need to do with our rotor-based doors is have them hanging slightly off from here. So if we stuck our rotor even up above here, you'd still end up seeing a little bit of it potentially. I prefer setting it into the wall a little bit, just from an aesthetic point of view. Doesn't really make it function any better, but it also allows us to fully open that 12 blocks, because if we have the rotor lined up here, the door will also occupy these blocks when it's opened, whereas if I move it over here, it'll open up fully. So what I want to do is drill out a little bit of this so that we've got room for the door to sit flush against here, and I will need to drill that out relatively carefully, but I might drill it out once I've built the door so I only get rid of what I absolutely need to. What we need for the door is a rotor and some blast door blocks. Don't need an advanced rotor, just need a regular rotor. And we'll pop it right there. Onto that, we're going to put a blast door edge. With this, I'm going to go right down to ground level, except this is something that I wanted to highlight, which is when you're placing blocks on a subgrid, they cannot intersect with voxels. And you can see on the upper right, at least from this awkward angle, the top right of the screen, that the cube that this will occupy actually intersects with the voxel there. So what we're going to do is just drill out a little bit more, and then we should be able to place it, at least once those boulders dance out of the way. There we go. So that's the sort of thing you'll need to keep in mind if you're ever having trouble placing blocks for an elevator or blast doors like this. I'm only going to go up this high with the door because what I'm going to do is make the rotor have a very small displacement so that it sits pretty flush across the top and also sits neatly against the ground on the bottom so that it can slide through. I only need to have the edges on one side to allow this to work. There should be enough room. And let's clean up the mess I just created, because I did create quite a mess. Okay, and we have our rough door. Now we need to build that rotor, so I'll grab some parts. And with the rotor built, we can now set up a couple of things. We can see on the road ahead that we're at 0 when we're closed, which should take us to 90 when we're fully open. So let's go and set up that rotor. It'll be... What? Oh, I see what I've done. So the rotor wasn't showing up on my control panel because I haven't actually linked these two grids properly. Because there was a gap there. There was also a gap up in here. Now, let's see if the rotor shows up in our control panel. Whoopsie. My bad. There we go. Now it's showing up. So we'll call this rotor hangar door left, calling it the left from the outside. And the reason we looked at those angles quickly is we want the upper limit to be 90 degrees and the lower limit to be 0. We want our rotor displacement to go this direction, probably as far as it can go, actually. Oh, actually just shy of that, so 0.3, oops, negative 0.39, 39 centimeters. That means we'll be hopefully able to place blocks up here. Yeah. So it'll sit flush against that side and flush against the bottom as well. So we should be able to place blocks down here too. Perfect. Now, this is the bit where I wanted to do this carefully by setting our door to have a nice slow momentum. So it's going to gradually move into position. The idea of this is I should be able to, as it moves, get rid of the bits of rock that it needs to have removed to sit in its little hole. Similar to how I did the elevator, making sure we're only drilling away what rock we need to in order to get this to function. So that's how we want that rotor to work, and we'll do the same on the other side so that then we can set both of them up and test it out. Obviously I don't want them to open and close as slowly as I just did then. That would be incredibly tedious. Especially if we do eventually set up the doors so that they can be automatically opened and closed. If we have to wait for that every time we return to base, I will go insane. And there we are, our two doors are set up. Now to make them somewhat functional, let's group them together. Blast doors, save. What we want these to have... Oh, hang on. I want to keep them... Show on terminal. So what I want to do first is set these to have a better velocity. So Hangar door left, let's give it a velocity of 1. Hangar door right, let's give it a velocity of -1. And then the group of them will be able to... Where are we gone? Hangar door, hangar blast doors. Then we can just hit reverse and both of them will close. Hopefully. Without explosions. It's looking good. Oh yeah. There were a few sparks then. Oh well. Let's just call it drama. For now, anyway. Awesome. Alright, at least from the control panel we can get this working. Let's just open them up since I don't really want them closed. And reverse. It looked like this was only at 89 degrees, which means I've still got some rock blocking it somewhere. I wonder where. I'll find that and then we'll move on to our next thing. Now that we've got our blast doors in place, I think it's time to come up with our design work a little bit. And I would like to make use of these interior wall blocks. Much like we did in the corridor upstairs, I think they add a lot of detail to a build that ends up looking quite nice in the end. We'll need those, and that's all I can think of at the moment, but we'll see how we go. What I would like to do with this entranceway is, first off, I always like to soften the corners at the top edge a little bit. I always think it has a nice touch on a hangar entrance. Then, I'm also going to put another row out here, I think. See how this looks. If we go across... My thought is, if we make this particular support look incredibly, or look significantly more robust than just a single row of blocks, we can probably make this look like the roof is properly supported if we just have a few of them spaced out. And with the size of these blast doors, we're not going to be able to do them very close together. So if we put them the blast door length apart, and then again, and then keep going back down into the back of the hangar, I think that could look quite nice. So let's try this out. And that's my thoughts with how we'll approach this. So we'll go across there. Nope, don't want you in the middle there. That's for the interior blocks. Like that. And we'll design the floor later. I want to do the roof first. So then, with these interior walls, I want to use the fact that they've got these sort of pipe-like shapes on them. And we'll go up like this. Probably don't bother putting the one in there. Although I will want to make sure those armor blocks in there get welded. Let's just do that one while I remember. And same with that one. There we go. Oh no! I'm out of hydrogen. Ow! Oh, that was painful. This new added gravity for the engineer really hurts. But it does make me glad that I've got... Oh, I didn't need to take the elevator, did I? I could have just refilled the connectors. Splitsy, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm up here now. Let's refill at our upside down medical room. May as well get more power while I'm at it. And oh, actually no, reasonable reason to come up here. I did injure myself. There we go. Alright, let's grab our oxygen generator. There we go. Even though it's now an O2H2 generator, I'm still always, sadly, going to think of it as an oxygen generator thanks to the naming it that way at the start. Back to what we were doing now that we've got hydrogen. So, placing in these interior wall blocks. So, build them in a row all the way across the top here as well. These have also got some small emissive strips in them, which I think will add some interest to these supports. Even though they are just 3 blocks and flat, this is a way that I like to add a little bit of extra detail where it makes some degree of sense. And like I did with the corridor upstairs, let's do that. I think that'll look nice. And over here. Now, I'm going to weld up this one so that you guys can see what I was going for, and we can have a bit of a thought about whether it actually works as intended or not. So that's going to take a bit of time, and I'll jump back once it's all finished. Okay, so this gives a rough idea of what I'm thinking, and I actually feel like it's worked out pretty well. That does feel somewhat robust and does give the rough impression that it's supporting the roof. I should probably fill in this gap up here though. So I'll grab a few steel plates, I'll do that, and then we'll move on to the next bit of the design. So for the next bit, we need to think of what we're going to do between this support and the next support, which we'll probably need to line up. Let's space it out a bit. 1, 2, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9. Then we'll go up like we've got on the other one, and this should work pretty well. So I'll just lay out the design at the moment. I wanted to weld the first one so that you guys could see what I had in mind, but for this one I think what we'll do is we'll just lay it out, and then because this construction is going to take an incredible amount of iron, and I have been mining extra when I haven't been recording because we've needed so much, but I still think we're going to need more, and that, I think, will give me an excuse to build the butterball transport truck that I wanted to build. And I have been working on that design. I've had to, for that design, work in creative mode to make sure that I could get something functional, because I've never done something like that before, and I didn't want to, and I wanted to show you guys something that was definitely going to work. Now, we've got our next support lined up, so I'd like to use these blocks like this. One there, 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 and there. And then use our slabs to fill in the gap across here. Then come back down again. Let's have a look at how that works out once I've laid out all of them. What the? I think that gives a little bit of an idea of what I'm thinking. So this will be one segment of our hangar, and we can then just repeat these segments further and further into the mountain. And my thought would be, while this first one just has the blast doors, this next segment has our entrance into our elevator, and it'll also have a section coming off this side, which will be for one of the vehicles. Then we dig deeper into the mountain again, have either potentially something coming off the left and right. Maybe on the left could be our cargo storage area where we finally build a large cargo container, and on the right could be storage for another vehicle. Then we dig in again and keep going that way, because then we'll always have the potential to expand this further, at least until we pop out the other side of the mountain, which I think is quite some ways away, which is a good thing. I've got plenty of steel plates at the moment, so I'm going to weld up these rows, which will give us the opportunity to decide how we're going to design the entrance into our hallway that'll go towards our elevator. And that is why I really wanted to get this started, so that we could do that bit of design and also think about what we're going to do with these pipes, because I don't really want them to come down this hole anymore. And I'm probably going to hide this hole in some way, shape or form. Unfortunately, I don't think I lined these up right. Yeah, it's not going to be covered up by one of our supports, which is unfortunate, but I wanted this to be wide enough across this way that even a large vehicle is going to be able to turn into a parking bay that comes off the side. That's why I wanted them to be this long. So I didn't really have an option there. Though I suppose I could have moved the whole contraption further out this way and tried to line it up, but I think it'll just give us an opportunity to do something a bit different around this spot, or even just leave it as a hole. Enough thinking about that, let's weld. Okay, so that'll give us the idea of what that's going to look like more precisely, which is helpful. And I think what we might want to do with this doorway is maybe even set it into this rock. If we use the rock a little bit, maybe put one of these little pieces in there. Let's see how this looks. Because I don't want to put a door on this, I just want to have this open through. And that looks okay. We could do the same down the other side. If we drill out just carefully a little bit more. One of the things I like to try and do with hangar floors, and which I've done in a previous build for the very large carrier in the machinima that I've made, it was try and create a feeling of extra layers beneath the hangar surface. So what I did was build access ways and service areas underneath the vehicles so that you had that feeling of the space actually being able to be used by people rather than just being a vehicle-sized space. And what I would like to do as well is build the conveyor systems under the floor as well, so that they run around the whole segment of... Right. After that little bit of me getting confused and not being able to decide what to do, I think I know what I am going to do. We will build a branching system with our conveyor belts, our conveyor tubes. So they will come from somewhere probably down this lift shaft, under the floor, and then they'll just branch into each vehicle's storage area. And I will be getting rid of that hole somehow. The other thing is they won't necessarily be visible, but what I will have is service access ways that are covered with either catwalk opens or the slatted windows, the vertical windows. And beside on each side of those access ways, we'll use the interior blocks so that we get the impression of pipes running along beside us, which I think will look quite nice and in theory would allow safe movement of service people throughout the hangar without having to restrict vehicle movement, which would be kind of cool. Anyway, now that I've finally made up my mind on that, let's work out what we're going to do with our elevator entry round here. Need to dig out a little bit more here. Let's lay something out first before I drill out that bit of rock. So our entryway should be here, with our door just in there. So let's build that the usual way. And I will go recharge my suit in a moment. So those blocks like so, and a slab in between. So we'll have our entranceway like that, and then we've got this entrance block here. I guess... Oh, I think I know what we can do. Let's drill this out. And I'm going to have to left click drill here because I don't want to do too much. Pick up those last bits of rock. Okay, this is what I thought we could do. If we use these tips, like that. Oh yeah, it's okay for now. Not super excited by it, but it'll be okay. It'll do for now. If I think of a better idea later, I will make some changes to it. Let's grab a few more steel plates so we can lay out a bit more. I now need to decide what to do with the roof here, because I don't want to be able to look up and see the parts of the elevator when we're not actually supposed to be in the elevator shaft. So, with the roof like that, maybe we do something We've unfortunately got an even-sized corridor. Maybe that's why it looks funny to me. Maybe we should widen this out to 3 blocks. Let's try that. I think it'll look much better and allow me to do some guidelines with the interior blocks like I've done upstairs. So at the moment, having an even numbered size gap, I really have to be more careful. So with this expanded, it'll allow us to place down those interior blocks like we did upstairs, which will give us a much nicer guideline on the floor and allow us to do some more interesting shapes on the inside, which I'm definitely going to prefer. Let's try something different on this board. I'm still not happy with it. It's just not working as I would like. What if we use these and then put one of these up the top? Does that look any better? Maybe. Maybe it does. Yeah, that could work. Then in the center will be our interior plates with their emissive strips showing. So we'll grind these away. So that's not too bad. In here we want to place our switch that's going to bring the elevator down to us. It's a call button. There we go. We've got a bit of an entranceway to our elevator down here. We've got a good idea of what we're going to do with our hangar. And it's going to take quite a lot of building. Let's drill out the rest of this and let's make this an actual little vestibule area and try and finish it off. As I think that'll be nice to have looking complete, even if it's really just being prepped for extension. And now that I've welded up all those blocks, I'm actually reasonably happy with this. Feels a bit more industrial than upstairs, which makes sense because we're in the hangar, but it still feels like it's a real space, and I'm genuinely happy with that. Last thing it needs though is a light, so let's add a pair of corner double lights up there and turn off my light and expand the radius of this. The last thing I'm going to do today is weld up this door so that it's functional, and that's good enough. And now we need to enter the console and set up our timer. So our timer is going to also, I should probably name this door. So if we just right click, we'll go straight to the door, sliding door, elevator. Excellent. And then we go to our timer and we will be able to find said door. Although there is only one, so I probably didn't need to do that. And what I want this to do is close the door automatically for us. We can manually open it when we arrive, but it will close it. So now, what we'll have is walking onto our elevator, and the door's shut. We're all nice and safely on board as we head upstairs and enjoy the lovely elevator music. Then we just have to click and walk out. And it's all working. Perfect. And even if I send it down... Oh dear. Oh, I thought I got off. That's a bit scary. Oh, am I gonna... Eesh. Ah, that was a little scary. Whew. I could set up another timer or something else to open the door when it arrives, but for now that will work. Eventually the elevator will become progressively more automated. That's my intention with it. But for the next episode, we've got some random voxels in our face. Let's get rid of that. Back to what I was talking about. Next episode, we will make sure we get more of this hangar constructed, and we'll lay out the floor design as well. And part of that will be getting rid of these conveyor systems so that we've got room to build our truck to carry the butterball. As in order to weld all of this, I'm going to need a huge amount of iron. And I don't really want to fly back and forth. Even though I could. I think it'll be more fun to have a truck. So we'll build a truck. And it's going to be a semi-detached truck. So it's going to involve rotors, which will be fun. There's all that, and plenty more to come. So I'll see you then. No, you know what? We're not going to stop there. There's a thing I've got to do since it was mentioned to me many times in the comments, and I completely agree with it. Let's hop in our elevator. Actually, we don't need to hop in. Let's go to our sensor block, set up actions, and let's change this to start. That'll give us a slight delay as we get on board. And the other thing I want to do, show hidden blocks, piston. Let's make one of these move just ever so slightly slower. Okay. And let's see what effect those two changes have. That's much nicer because we get on board before we start moving. And then, as we get to the top, we should slow down just a teensy bit right at the end. Or not. Maybe I didn't make that change big enough. Let's try 0.7. Oops. Ah! There we go. And is this going to give me the slowdown that I was looking for when we get to the bottom? I was just hoping for that little bit of a gradual braking when we reach the end. There we go. That's not too bad. It's a little bit jerky, but it adds a extra little touch. The thing that I really do like though is this delay as we get on board. And that is definitely it. I'll see you all next time.